Hey there everybody, it's Wayne D. Welcome to the website, WayneD.com. We're looking at Derek Sherrard. Derek works up at Palm Beach National Public Course up in West Palm, and he also works at Trump's Place, Trump International. Derek's been in the game for a while. He's tried to play a couple times, but having had work, he hadn't been able to put as much time into it as he wants. He hadn't been hitting the ball very well, so playing in tournaments as a professional down here is kind of tough because the entry fees are steep and you got to shoot super low. Anyway, Derek's still trying to get better. We've worked probably 2 or 3 times a year each time I come down to Florida, and his patterns are pretty much the same each time, so I try to get better as a teacher, give him some stuff to work on, and he enjoys coming down to take a look. Alright, so obviously Derek's a good player. You can see it in the rhythm of the swing. So if we look at it from in slow-mo real quick, what we're going to see, to me, is a pattern of the club getting deep behind him. You can see the club head getting behind the hands a bit, and then we're going to get a little bit of extra right side depth. And if you watch the hips, they're going to start off pretty good, and they're going to start to twist in this way a little too much, so everything gets a little too behind. Watch the right arm, the right shoulder. So to me, this is a position where there's too much going around behind him, and now it's gonna have a hard time getting back in front of the ball without the club getting stuck. So here's the club head coming from more into out, and then through impact we see that out to the right flippy kind of motion, so that kind of gives him a floaty right to left ball flight. He can hit the ball, he can hit it a little chunky sometimes, like that one. And you can see not a lot of work from the ground up, kind of stays down through it. So first thing that occurred to me here that I wanted to do is I really wanted to get the pattern of this swing plane to go back more on the shaft plane, and just to stay on plane a little better up at the top, as opposed to going under the plane like this and then getting across the line up here with the right side going behind him. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a shaft in the ground just at the top of the shaft plane, pretty much, so you can see it right here. So what we do there is make a practice takeaway, and when the club gets to parallel to the ground, we check and see that the shaft is somewhere around the neck of the club. So that pretty much guarantees that if you whip it inside, you'll hit the shaft. That'll give you the feedback, and on the downswing it'll be far enough away that because of the narrowing of the downswing, it'll never hit it on the way down. So you can see as he's practicing the takeaway there that the club now, in avoidance of the stick, is going to miss the shaft. So we get the club up. So we're really trying to get that would to me be more out in front of him, more on plane. And the other thing we're going to try to do here, because of his tendency to pull the right arm way behind him, is we're going to try to keep the right arm in front of him by introducing a little bit of external rotation earlier in the swing. The trouble with that is we don't want to roll the left arm and flatten the club too much. So here we get it up to the top. I wouldn't expect his full swing to look laid off like this, but I like that better than the cross the line version. And then the other thing we talked about was visualizing the femur here as a square post, and what we're going to try to do is load the right hip back, straight back, and twist it less, which means really the femur is not going to turn as much. So I would like him to visualize that post kind of with a headlight on it, flat shining at the camera, and as we go back, the right hip would go deeper, but we try to keep the femur from rotating too much. So we don't want the right hip to go behind him as much. And in a sense, it feels like when the club's moving out in front and that right leg is not twisting as much, it feels like you're almost swinging against your body. So the body is really trying to stay more facing the ball, lower body, and the upper body is swinging more out in front, so nothing feels like it's gone way back behind him. And then in the forward swing, when we start the lower body, we want to bring the hands back toward the ball. So if you watch right there, there's the grip end, and watch how this, so that's the left arm reacting to the movement of the lower body. So in a stop and go, you're really focused on starting down from the feet into the pelvis, or when you could say that when you change direction with the right side pelvic muscles, that you immediately feel it in the feet. So that's a nice sequence, and you can see Derek's got a real good feel for the delay of the club. You can see how he gets his hands nicely forward, and then as he hits the ball, there's still this flippiness there. So let's watch as he hits. So you can see the club come down. It's not stuck anymore, but when he hits it, notice how the club head is going to stay out to the right. So what I noticed there, and the next thing that I want to work on, and this is taking up most of the lesson time, if you watch his legs, as he's hitting the ball, you're going to see the right leg bend and collapse, and the pelvis is actually going to look like it lowers down a little bit. So both knees stay flexed. He stays down, and his follow-through position when his right arm is straight is you can see the club flip over and kind of point straight up. Alright, so what we really want to try to get here is a feeling of using the glutes, especially under the left leg, to be able to push up. So we want to keep the pelvis back. We want to get it over to the left enough. And I didn't do a very good job of filming this, but so this is the drill, how we set it up. So if we had done one more of these, kind of ran out of time, I would have made sure that at the initial setup he would have been centered, and then after he pushed his hips forward like that, in doing the drill, I would want him to come back into the box, meaning that I would want him to move back to the right to get the right hip up against the wall again, and then go back past the ball. Here he's going to stay left. Now the whole idea now from here is going to be the feeling of the right glute is going to be driving up into the left. The left is definitely going to be pushing up off the ground. So we're going to activate that glute, going to use the muscles behind the hamstring and behind the knee, and we're going to push up from under the left as the right goes up into the left. and that's going to be a snappy kind of a thrust. The belt buckle is going to feel like it moves up and left, up in that direction. We're thinking mostly in terms of 45 to the target line there. And what we want is we want that feeling of the inside muscles, the adductors of the legs, to be working and the right driving into the left as the left straightens. So that's going to come together here between the legs, and what we're going to get is we're going to get much more upper thoracic bend, and that's going to help sustain that right wrist past the ball longer. So just take a look at the impact here and watch the path of the club here. So if we compare, let's go back and look at the face on. So even if let's do this, even if we go to the stop and go, where he's in better shape here, let's take a look at what happens. So the biggest difference is going to be right through impact and up into the follow through. So watch how the right arm moves. So the shaft is parallel to the ground. That's essentially the same position. Look at the massive difference that you get when you get into position to get the ground forces working, and you can use that left leg to drive up. So when his hands reach the same position here, let's say where the right arm's parallel, look at the difference there. Really can see it up in the chest and in the hips, where that pelvis is. So when we compare the down the line view, so this is Derek as he's staying more down, and this is Derek as he's trying to feel that upward feeling and get the belt buckle to push up and left. So again, big difference in the lower body. So if I put that, you can really see it when I set the shaft plane line up. I started this one a little late, so let's guesstimate if this one was 52. We'll draw that up. Alright, so some pretty big differences. Derek's pretty happy. He's got some good stuff to work on.